Isn't it funny that she reads all these survival guides and she's like kind of a survivalist, and like the real world survival that she needed to learn was from the asshole guy?
Yeah. The whole time. She needed a douchey frat guy.
Hello and welcome to Film Curious. I'm joined by Nicole this week to chat about Send Help, the horror comedy directed by Sam Raimi, starring Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien. Recently hit streaming as of a week or so ago. Well, by the time you're listening to this, it'll probably be a little over a week. And it's now available to watch on Hulu. It premiered in theaters at the end of January, and I unfortunately wasn't able to see it then, but very much wanted to. Nicole's in the same boat as me with this. So we decided it would be a fun first-time watch to discuss together, because what millennial doesn't love Rachel McAdams and Sam Raimi? The story follows an overworked analyst, played by McAdams, and her spoiled Nepo baby boss, played by Dylan O'Brien. As their workplace power dynamics come crashing down, quite literally, when they find themselves as the sole survivors of a plane accident off the coast of Thailand, they realize they must figure out a way to cooperate to survive on this remote jungle island. In true Sam Raimi style, the visuals of this film can be cartoonish, somewhat comic book. Definitely there's a lot of comedy in there, dark comedy, and some slapstick-esqueness to it. Everything's kind of at a very high altitude of emotion, and I think that if you go in not knowing the director and you're just served this plot line, you could easily buy right into this concept. But I think if you're not aware of what you're walking into when you walk into Sam Raimi's world of horror comedy that he does, you might be like, whoa, what the hell is going on? I didn't feel that way because I knew walking into this. Or you're very quickly, Sam Raimi goes, hi, I'm here. This is a Sam Raimi movie, like as a director.
Yeah.
So when you walked into this movie, Nicole, were you like, I kind of have a grasp on like, this isn't going to be
Like a more straightforward, maybe.
Yeah, like you see the trailer and you read the concept and you go, okay, like this is a survivalist film and we have some interesting power dynamics going on.
Yeah.
So for you, did you know walking into it what you were walking into?
I think that I forgot about it, and then this isn't a spoiler because it's what the movie is about, because they do crash. But I think that was probably what, like, the way, we'll talk about it, but the way that the plane crash is done, that to me was immediately like, oh, I forgot. Like, that to me was the moment where you were like, hi, it's me, Sam Raimi. Like, this is the kind of movie that I make. That was where I was like, oh, all right. But I definitely do think that it is helpful to know going in, because it's definitely not the kind of style that is for everyone. But I also think that it could be maybe a little bit of a fun surprise if you think you're going into like a straightforward survival psychological thriller, and then you don't realize just like how like funny and over the top and campy it's gonna get.
For sure. I mean, I think I forgot slightly. And it's maybe because I haven't rewatched a Sam Raimi film that isn't a comic book adaptation basically in a while.
Yeah.
Because what are the last, few things he's done? He did the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. So right there, you are dealing with a comic book world, right? I'm a big fan of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire. Again, he's working in this kind of comic book realm. So I think I did forget what kind of movies he makes when he makes horror movies, right?
Yeah.
And so I did have a little bit of, like you were saying, like oh, okay, yes, this is what I'm watching, right? I understand. But very quickly when I understood it, which I think the first hint of it is when Dylan O'Brien's character is so repulsed by the tuna fish salad sandwich on Rachel McAdams. lip in the start of the movie. And, there's quick kind of cuts into her mouth of it by the lip, on the corner of the lip, and then back to his facial expression of being disgusted by it, almost horrified by it. And so I think for me, very quickly, I was like, okay, I know what's this kind of movie is going to be for us. And so I think that was very helpful, setting the tone of the story you were going to experience, Yeah. And so I think that it's almost good that he was like, I'm going to show my hand of how this movie is going to kind of play out from a very early start point. And the same thing with the plane crash. And this isn't spoiler because honestly, we know that the plane has to crash, right? Like otherwise, how do they end up on the island? It's in the synopsis. It's in the trailers, right? Like we know this is going to happen. But I don't want to call it torture porn. How a couple of Dylan O'Brien's colleagues die during the plane crash, and the character he plays is Bradley. I need to get there. Like I could easily remember Rachel McAdams' character's name. Like Linda Little is very easy to remember, and it's a great name. It's a great character name, especially for this genre of movie, this type of story, this tonally, right? But Bradley Preston, how his colleagues, these bros, I mean, they might as well be like tech bro types, I feel like, or just straight bro types, finance bros. That's probably the right category of them. I don't experience a lot of them in my own life personally, but you know the type. And they kind of die in these egregious ways, if I'm using, they're like crazy ways, but like I don't know, for me, I don't know what kind of person this says I am, says about me, but I enjoy watching these assholes get what's coming to them, basically. Or I mean, it's not get what's coming to them. I guess you can be a bully and not deserve to die in a gruesome way. And I think that it helps that we were put in Rachel McAdams, Linda's point of view right away, where we know she's a hard worker. She's expecting this promotion from Bradley. Once he takes the position, his father has passed away, so he's stepping up into, I'm assuming, the CEO role of the company. His father promised her the VP position, and Bradley comes in as a jerk, basically, and going, it doesn't matter if she's qualified for it. She's brilliant. She's worked hard for this. No, I'm going to put one of my college, oh my God. This just shows I did not go to a college with any of these.
A frat?
What's it frat. Yeah. His frat bro. Yeah. There you go. Like where I went to college, there were no frats. So that word escapes me sometimes. Like I forget that is a part of the college experience. But he instead puts his, frat bro friend from college in the position of VP, and it passes over McAdams. And again, we're kind of know right away that once Linda feels that she's been slighted or wronged, we do know that she will go that step to figure out like why. And she kind of wants that fairness. So I think right away, we kind of understand her positioning of why she's so upset, why these guys suck. And it's kind of like, she is a little odd. Like we do know that she's a little odd. Like it seems like her closest friend is her bird, I think it's like a cockatoo or whatever, sweetie. So I think for me, maybe some people would watch it and go, yeah, she is kind of a total weirdo. She doesn't have the social skills to be a VP of a major company. But at least I feel for her, because there's no reason to be treated poorly just because you're not socially adept.
Yeah, I mean, I do appreciate that about the movie too, that it does kind of give you that context of like, I had the same thought where I'm like, well, maybe she shouldn't be VP right now, but the movie obviously goes to lengths at the beginning to show just how cruel they're being. That there are, a number of scenes where you see Bradley and then his bros or whatever, just laughing at her expense and really making like a mockery of her. But I feel like it's from the beginning of the movie, it does set up a nice, which I didn't expect probably from the movie, is like I don't. I don't feel like maybe most people would say nuance, like when they're thinking about Sam Raimi movies, but like for me, there was some level of nuance in terms of these two characters throughout the entire movie that I was not expecting.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it really, it could be whoever's viewing the movie. I would be curious to see what the response would be from maybe a more business type, bro type who watches this movie. Like, I wonder if it does the perspective from Bradley's point of view is this is a weirdo who has no social skills, who definitely cannot be VP, and I can't stand her, and like she's just a sore eye sight. And I wonder if, somebody with coming from that perspective could go to Bradley's point of view and be like, yeah, he's not that awful. Like, he doesn't deserve some of the things that end up coming to him, right? But again, it's pretty hard when your leading lady is Rachel McAdams. Maybe, again, could be a bias of mine. But she's, again, her performances are always wonderful. I think she's very good at portraying a weird character with nuance, right? Like, again, in somebody else's hands, we could end up with a character that is super annoying and unsympathetic, who we don't like and we don't find charming at times, right? And so I think her performance always helps this kind of film. Like we were saying almost with No Hard Feelings a couple weeks back, is like Jennifer Lawrence brings to the character these micro expressions and nuances that we're not sure that others could bring so finely. Like, there is such a, especially with a horror comedy type movie, right? Like, it's such a fine wire to walk between comedy and I'm being over the top and outrageous. So like, what I will say is that Sam Raimi's movie might be outrageous, right? But the actors in them take it very seriously, right? Like,
Yes, yeah.
They are these characters. They're not overplaying the character. They're certainly not underplaying it, but like, they know, it seems like he's giving them the exact direction that they need to know how to play the character in a way that the characters aren't totally unbelievable and outrageous, right?
Yeah, and I think Dylan O'Brien also does the same thing. And I did have there were several times like during the movie where I thought if this was played by different actors, I might be like, I might really be like, okay. Because there are maybe some times where story-wise, I'm kind of like, okay, but it is the way that the two of them, he's great. But yes, especially like Rachel McAdams. I don't think I've ever seen her in a role like this.
No.
And it was surprising even to see her like in those early scenes where she is, like you were saying, like that awkwardness. And just the way that she plays Linda. And I'm like just not used to, I think, seeing Rachel McAdams that way. And she was so believable and so good, like in those scenes where immediately I was like, oh my God. Like when she's with her coworkers, like I was like, please let it end. Like so many moments in the beginning where, and you really do feel for her. But she did like such an amazing job. Like I don't know. There are other people that I'm sure could have done a good job as Linda, but I think that for me took it to like another level of what I expected from the movie. So she was great.
Yeah. I mean, obviously she was standout, but I do think Dylan O'Brien, I'm surprised by. Not that like I think he's ever been a crappy actor, but again, like I can't really make that judgment call because I'm not watching him. I didn't watch Teen Wolf. Was that the show he was on, like, back in the day?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't watch that show, which is surprising. Like, that seems like right up my alley when I was a teenager, when I was younger. Like, it seems like a show I should have watched. I didn't.
It does.
But, like, I didn't watch that show. So I don't have a scale kind of to judge him on, except for, you know, your brain automatically just goes, oh, teen actor, right? So I think that this was a good, I guess, stepping into his ability type movie. I mean, of course, if there's some Dylan O'Brien fans out there and you need to school me on like his career and his filmography, like, and I'm way wrong on this. I only know Teen Wolf and, you know, Taylor Swift's music video for All Too Well.
I forgot about that.
Right? That was him. That was him with Sadie Sink.
That was, yeah. I don't remember too. There was a couple of, I don't know how long ago it was, but he got really great review, and I saw it, and he was really good in this movie called Twinless, that I think like is another like powerhouse performance. I was like, oh wow, okay. I am a Dylan O'Brien fan. I'll say I'm a Dylan O'Brien girly. This movie, I think he also, I'll say, evidence that he did a great job was that it kind of cured me of any crush that I might have had, because I was so annoyed and so put off just by the laugh, just the signature laugh over and over and over again. You know, I do think that he did a great job, and he also nailed that kind of balance of where, I mean, I'm saying that I was like, ugh, like, so like repulsed by him, but then also there were times where he was very charming. And you know, like, you really did feel like that kind of maybe a genuine connection between the two of them. So yeah, he was great too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, again, we can argue whether that charm was just what he's learned his whole life of how to put on to persuade somebody of something, you know? So we'll get into that in the spoiler section of this discussion. But yeah, so I was impressed by him going forward. If he's in something, I'm not going to automatically assume that he's just another teen actor that is good looking enough to continue his career. That's not that I felt that way about Dylan O'Brien. I don't know, I'm putting a stereotype together that I don't even really believe in. But if you were, I'm just, I guess, making the case for if you had that idea of him, I think this was, him kind of stepping into a new type of a performance that now, okay, we know going forward, he's totally capable of being I'm not a chameleon, because I don't, you know, but he's versatile enough to do this sort of thing. Where Rachel McAdams, I always knew this. Like, no, I haven't seen her do this kind of role before per se, but like, I have full confidence in that woman that you can hand her any script and she will take that character, she will bring it to life, it will be believable, and it will be one of the best performances you have seen. McAdams, I'm so happy that she is doing films like this now. She got typecast, I feel like, and stuck so hard in the romantic interest role for such a long time. And I love seeing now in her, I guess I don't even call it later career, because she's not old enough for having a later career. I just like that in her now, like, she's hitting her stride of she's getting the opportunity to be awkward or unhinged, or any of these things that I don't think she was really allowed to be before. It was just be charming and be the romantic interest, be the love interest, and make us all fall in love with you, which I would argue that even with this character, she can still make you fall in love with her. That being said, I will even like send a call back to you. I love seeing her in comedic roles. I loved her in Game Night. I think she was fabulous in Game Night. I mentioned that at the end of our No Hard Feelings episode, actually. And so it's so exciting when I get to see her do comedy again, because I think she has such a unique way of going about it. She doesn't make you like laugh out loud funny, but when the moments hit, you're almost like you're having the joy with her. Like, you're experiencing her when she's hitting those moments of joy and like comedic, and she needs to hit like the more funny parts. I think you're along for the ride with her. You're like, if she's laughing, I'm laughing, just because like we feel she's very good at conveying her joy, and I feel like it kind of goes through the screen and you feel it. But again, maybe I'm just hyping Rachel McAdams up way too much, but I don't think so.
Well, I'll mention too that I thought it was really sweet when I saw interviews with the two of them that Dylan O'Brien was such a big Rachel McAdams fan. He's like, oh my God, like I get to be in a movie with Rachel McAdams. And he was like quoting her movies to her and stuff. And she was like, what? How do you remember that? And like there's this ridiculous movie that she was in when I don't even know how old she was, called The Hot Chick, where she like switches bodies with Rob Schneider. That'll tell you like the premise of the movie. But he kept quoting that at her. But it was very cute to see, because you could tell that like he really has seen a lot of her work and was like genuinely very excited. Like, I get to be in a movie with Rachel McAdams, which I was happy about. I'm like, okay, he also appreciates the power of Rachel.
He understands.
McAdams.
Yeah, he understands he's with an icon. I mean, I would say that she's an icon.
Yeah.
Especially, again, like I said, if you're a millennial and you don't love Rachel McAdams, like, I don't know, maybe then you were not raised in the certain environment that we all were raised in as millennials. So that being said, happy to see her in this role. The movie is fun. And now I think it's a good point in time to get into the spoiler discussion section here, because there's so many fun things to talk about, especially when it comes to, halfway through the movie, a quarter of the way through the movie. There's a lot of twists and turns that maybe you saw coming, maybe you didn't see coming. I think that Raimi was good at laying some breadcrumbs out for you and setting the tone with a lot of things. So that being said, if you haven't seen Send Help and you don't want any spoilers, here's your warning. Moving forward, we're going to get into it. So come back and listen when you have seen it, and I would encourage you to go see it. For me, I thought it was a lot of fun. So my big spoiler that I want to talk about is I was harping on the knife, and I remember going, "Where'd she get this knife?" And then like my partner Ryan going, "Oh, she said it washed up on shore." And I'm like, I don't know why. Like, that line didn't sink into my head that she gave an explanation for it or whatever. And I'm like, but I don't remember her washing like up on shore with a knife. Like, I don't remember that. Like, my brain kept kind of like going back to this knife is suspicious. It's new. Sure, okay, maybe she could have washed up with it in the plane crash. I don't know. She could have found it. But like, what are the odds? The plane sunk in the ocean. I mean, maybe one little knife had enough buoyancy to be brought up on shore. But something about it just like rang like, this is odd. Did you have any pause when you heard her explanation or this knife came into the picture?
Yeah, I mean, I think specifically because of what you just said, where like we're in her perspective so many times when she is like learning skills and, like gaining her power. So it did strike me as odd. Like we didn't see her randomly finding a super helpful knife. And there were also like, there were a couple of other things, or maybe just even, I mean, she does have survival skills, but there was something about the ease of it. I was also watching it with my partner, and there were several things that he would be like, well, I don't know about that. Well, that seems too easy. And I would be like, okay, just like suspend disbelief. But then it was really kind of satisfying, actually, when you realize that. And we don't know exactly. I mean, she was doing stuff, but then when you like think about everything and how perfect she was, and she became like this like amazing survivalist, that she had access to this like fully stocked house, it made a lot more sense. I think that made that a very satisfying twist, and I didn't expect it at all. I think I just took that as like, oh, like they're close to civilization, like somebody could find them. I did not think that there was a whole home. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I think that the survivalist, again, Raimi does a good job of the bait and switch to a certain degree, because he's going, we're in her apartment at the beginning, we're seeing all her survivalist guides, we see her on the plane, we see the bros making fun of her while they're watching. Somehow they found her survivor audition tape, right? And by the way, there was nothing funny about that tape. I would put her on Survivor in an instant if I received that audition tape. I mean, it was funny in certain ways, but I'm like, nah, this woman should have been on Survivor. I think would have been a great choice. But yes, it's that kind of, okay, we can believe, and we see that she's able to get the water, build him a little hut type thing out of leaves. And so we kind of are like, oh, okay, we can, suspend our disbelief that she is capable of a certain degree of things. But then we do, we hit kind of a halfway point where, yeah, she's just finding water everywhere, and she's got like sushi, and she's eating like great fruit. And it's like, where, then it's where like the question kind of comes in of like, is she really able to do this? And, there's a point where you look back, and this is always, I think, like a great way of doing storytelling is you're not doing a total bait and switch, right? Where like Raimi is easing you into this idea that she is thriving on the island, right? And it is believable. But at the same time, then you look back and you go, oh yeah, like we can see like this kind of the differences when she finds the house, right? Like assuming probably once she tells Bradley and she brings him up on that mountain, right? And they're hiking, and she's kind of showing the island to him, and she's like, don't go over there on that side with all of the thorns and brambles or whatever. And now we know that like, okay, she probably found this house a good amount into, like, we know that she found it probably pretty soon after they landed on this island. So she's been indulging in that for a bit. But you wouldn't have seen it coming necessarily because, we see her thriving, and there's the scene with the waterfall, right? She discovers that, and she kind of becomes radiant when she looks in her reflection of the water. And, we're shown like the Rachel McAdams that we know,
Yeah.
But I think that it was a nice little fold into showing us like, oh, when she's here and in her element, she feels this way, right? Like, yes, I'd say she's gorgeous throughout the whole film. There's a radiance that we get, especially when she looks into her reflection, when she finds this waterfall or this source of water. And we're like, okay, she's got and that's kind of like the switch in the character that, okay, she's got this newfound confidence, right?
Yeah. It's funny because like that moment when she looks into the water and sees herself, it made me laugh because I felt like it was her being like, wait a second, I'm goddamn Rachel wait a second, I'm Rachel McAdams. And then I appreciate that too, that like, just I guess the hair and makeup, whatever they were doing, that like as the movie goes forward, like she is looking, and he comments on it too, like where she's looking really great, and like it's suiting her. But the level of manipulation on her part and lying, and like it was interesting to me the way that we're given the story when the perspective switches and how the information is kept from us sometimes. That was something too that I wasn't quite expecting, and I appreciated. And I think they set it up from the beginning, where I was kind of he says it to her, and I was on the same like wavelength with Bradley when she does kind of barge into his office and is like, what the fuck? Like, I'm not going to get the promotion. And he's like, I am surprised like that you came in here, which I was too. But I feel like that's one of the early first signs where it's like, okay, like he doesn't really know Linda, and you don't really know Linda. And as the movie keeps going forward, that we find out more stuff about her background, and then obviously we see what she's capable of. And I thought that was such a fun element of it, that once we started finding stuff out and stuff was introduced that I never would have expected, like, Zuri showing up on the island. Like,
I didn't think it was going to be her. And that was a little bit like, wow, this is unbelievable, except for we know that she saw a boat pass by another time. And so, yeah, we know that maybe she's not that far. They're not that far from civilization, right? And I
Yeah.
think that that's something that, yeah, the movie does really well is, yeah, it's purposefully keeps the audience not in the know on certain things. Yeah, that was funny. The fiance showing up. And you know what? Funnily enough, I thought that she was going to bring them through. This is how, like, I was not expecting, I did not notice she found the house or civilization or anything. McAdams' character, Linda, because I really thought she was going to, like, bring them through the thorns or something and, like, the wild side of the
Oh, yeah.
jungle and let them get lost. Like, that was my naive prediction, you know. I didn't think that she was, I mean, obviously, yeah, okay, bring them up the cliff with the weak points that you know, we can send these two people, the fiance and her guide, I guess, her boat captain off the edge. So yeah, there was a lot of little things where I'm like, I was not anticipating this. And I don't think it was from left field though, right? And I think Pete and I, a couple episodes ago, were kind of talking about that in terms of, you know, you need just the right amount of breadcrumbs to enjoy it. But you don't give us too many, because then, okay, we saw it, but then don't bring us something into the movie that's totally outlandish and wild that, like, we can't believe it came from left field. We could have never predicted this. And I think that this film and Raimi hits a very good middle ground between the two. So yeah, there's lots of fun twists, and especially between the characters, right? We go from them both kind of hating each other. You know, I mean, I'd say Linda, when she was checking on his pulse, when she discovers Bradley on the island, that he survived the crash as well, I think I noticed her. She goes like, fuck, basically, like, he's alive.
Yeah.
I think there was a part of her that was really hoping that he was just going to be dead. Then there's parts of her that kind of soften up to him later on. And I think she is kind of enjoying the power dynamic of it all, right? Like, who wouldn't? This guy's a total dick to her and still is a dick to her. And until he basically almost dies of dehydration and starvation is the only time where he's like, shit, I gotta play along, right? And the two of them kind of go back and forth with trusting each other, how much to trust the other. I would say that one could argue I had a debate with Ryan about whether, you know, she was going to kill him the whole time. Did she soften to him at any point? Did he soften to her at any point? Or were they just playing each other the whole time? You know?
Yeah.
I would argue it's probably a little bit of both. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Did you think that they were playing each other the whole time to a certain degree?
No. I think that for her too, she was kind of giving him chances, which is why it's messed up. And I don't necessarily like. I think that's the biggest surprise for me, is that I thought, based on, like, I guess the trailers, if you told me the idea of the movie, that it was going to be like, oh, okay, like, we're rooting for Linda the whole time, and then now she has the power. When by the end of the movie, I mean, I don't like Bradley, but I'm also like, Linda just got problems. You know, like, Linda, like, as soon as she got that opportunity for power. But it felt almost like sometimes there was like a weird sexual tension, and then other times it felt very much to me like a parent-child kind of a thing, where it's like, okay, like, you don't learn. And she tells the story about, like, the dog that does not listen, keeps running away. It felt like, too, I saw somebody online like draw a comparison because she calls him Sweetie at one point. That's what she calls her bird. That they view it as kind of like something that's dependent on her, and she's enjoying that. So I feel like in her mind, she really was repeating, because people too, I think, I was enjoying the discourse. People are like, why does she keep saving him? You know? And then I think it's just because she wants to keep giving him the chance. And then once she has that power dynamic, she wants to keep it. But she's like giving him the chance, like giving him the opportunity to show that he's changed, to grow, but in the way that she wants, you know? And he just, I don't think that he ever really meant it. Like, I think that the whole time he was playing her and he has not changed. That's not to say that I think that he does probably have genuine moments where he does think about and realize, like, oh, like, Linda is just a person. Like, when they're drunk together and they're talking about, and he kind of opens up to her, like, I think that was probably true stuff. I think that, like, him saving her when she was going to fall. Like, I think that there are moments where there is that nuance, there is that balance where, like, Bradley sucks, but also, like, he's not a complete, like, monster. And then by the end of the movie, it's like Linda's done things where you could be like, she is a monster, because she's, like, actually killed innocent people.
Right. Yeah, I mean, she did kind of, when she did not help them with the falling off the cliff, you can argue, that's where the turn in Linda happens. I would say, though, that I was on the side of Linda to kill him. Like, I was like, fuck this dude. Like, I don't think he changed. I am on the side of, I didn't buy most, like, I think it was after he poisons her, right? He's trying to get away, and
yeah,
I guess that's where I was like, oh, he's not going to change. He's using her to survive, and he's gonna, I don't know. I don't even know if he's going to try to find his way off the island, because honestly, that guy doesn't seem capable enough to do anything on his own. I don't have a high opinion of him. This Bradley character, he doesn't really convince me at any point that, like, he is a person worthy of saving. It's just my feeling about him.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's funny you mention how she treats him like a child, and it's like, yeah, it's almost like a mother-child relationship. When he has his life vest on, it has child on it. Like like it has the directions to, like, how to save it, like save the child or put the life vest on the child on the life vest. So that was like, I think there was another couple of things. I'm trying to recall the details. See, this is where I'm like, I actually would rewatch this movie to see if I could pick up on some more, like, breadcrumbs throughout the film. But there are definitely instances that are always kind of suggesting he's a child, he's a baby. I guess, like, even when she's trying to get him to drink water and eat food, and
oh yeah, he won't eat fish, and he's like, she's like, swallow it. It's very
And so there's just so many instances where I'm like, this man is a child. We're not dealing with an adult here, to a certain degree. Yeah. But then you think back to, unfortunately, when she barged into that office to state, like, hey, how did you pass me over for the job? He was clearly coming on to the attractive woman, the young attractive woman that he was hiring. Yeah. And he was like, she repeats the line to him later on in the film of, like, are you going to go the distance for me, or something like that?
Yeah,
I don't
above
remember
and
the
beyond,
exact
I think.
line. Oh, yeah. Above and beyond, yeah. And he immediately decides that she's asking him for sex or to remove his clothing. And I think that's very telling that we know that Bradley definitely has wielded his power in not so great ways. And so I think there are, I wonder, I'm curious to see what other people think about him. I think he's trash. I think he's scum. So Nicole, you have a much more empathetic look at him, I think. But, like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm waiting for Linda to kill this motherfucker. Like, sorry, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to curse or not. I'm like, I can curse. It's our podcast. I can curse.
I think he's very unlikable. And the fact, too, that he does keep showing his true colors. But at the same time, I feel like I do have to factor in that Linda is also, like, using this power dynamic. It seems like, she does have that honest. And I thought that was another surprise where she talks about that she was married. That her husband was abusive. And it seems to make a lot of sense when you then go back and see how she kind of carries herself, or, like, when she goes back in her car and she's saying that she's enough and that she's tried to do some work to build her confidence back up. But I don't know. There were like a lot of moments that for me, it felt like, okay, she's used to being put down and abused in certain ways at work as well. And that now she's in sort of the abuser role because like he's completely dependent on her. Like she teaches him things, but like not everything that she knows. Like she doesn't give him all the information. He's cut off from any help aside from her, you know, like she's his entire world. So I feel like even anytime that I don't like Bradley as a person. And probably I did keep thinking about like, okay, if they had not crashed and they were in real life, what would have been going on at the office, you know? That if I'd seen more of that, I probably, whatever, how he conducted himself, and you're talking about him with the assistant, that potentially we would see some behavior where like, you know me. I'm on the same wavelength as you, where I'm just
right. I'm not trying. Nicole is obviously against like sexual assault and
well, I would just be like
harassing your employees.
Yeah, I think though that because I was seeing everything that he was doing that was making him look like an asshole within the context of what Linda was doing, you know, so I kind of was like factoring that in where I will say like I wasn't like, oh, I want this guy to die necessarily, but I wasn't like, I wasn't rooting for her, I guess is what I'm saying. Like I was, and she was very fun and likable. And I think that's also just the way that McAdams like played the role. But I don't know if I necessarily got the same level of satisfaction as I would have thought by the end, like when she does finally kill him and she gets the good life and she's the survivor. I thought it was a great edit. It was really fun, but I wasn't like rah, rah, yes. You know, where usually in this kind of narrative, I am like, good for her. You know, like even if she's killed a bunch of heinous things.
I think that's the thing, right? Okay, so here's a question for you then. If Linda doesn't send Zuri, is her name?
Yeah.
The fiance and the boatman off the cliff, and you know, say she doesn't do that, or she does. You say that the fiance doesn't show up at all, because let's be honest, like if they show up and then she does help them, I don't really know where the movie goes from there. I think that's it. They get rescued and it's a shit time for Linda for the rest of her life. Yeah. Or until she leaves that job. So say they don't show up, right? Is that the changing point for you then that makes you not root for Linda? So I'm just curious if you take that moment out, if you take those couple scenes out.
Yeah, I think so. And it seems like too that she realizes that about herself as well, that she can't really root for herself in the same way, or that she can't excuse certain things. The more I thought about it, because at first I was like, I don't really know how to take this conversation where she's revealing this past and, you know, serving her husband his last drink and giving him the keys and letting him, you know, knowing that he might get into an accident, which he does. I was like, I don't know how we're supposed to take this, if this is supposed to be making me feel for Linda, like explain her behavior. But then the more I thought about it, her response to what Bradley says, this might not have been what they were getting at, but for me, it illuminated it for me, like where he talks about his growing up and also dealing with abuse and being very lonely. And that she says like, well, at least now, like we know, like we have something, it's not your fault. Like we have something to blame it on. And they both kind of laugh. And then he's just kind of looking at her. And I took it too then is that she does the same thing for herself, where like maybe any badness or behavior, bad thoughts that she has, she kind of reasons it as like, well, I've been through like a really terrible thing. And I feel like
she says that line, monsters aren't born, they're created.
Yeah. And it was funny because then I think that's the very end of the scene where they're drinking. And she says to him, like, we should never leave this island and we should never get off this island. And my partner, we paused the movie at that point. And he was like, I'm kind of taking that as her saying that they're both bad people and that they both should not get off this. Like, they should stay on this island. Like, the world is better off without them, like, out in the world. Which I was like, oh, okay, interesting. And then, yeah, I think that that's definitely the turning point. And then you see her reaction, too, where she is, like, almost like she's just lying there and she says she needs a sick day. But it's not like she is just skipping around after she kills, you know, like, she smashes his head in and he and we don't see that too at first. I thought, they let you think maybe she just let them fall, which is also
fall.
bad. Yeah, but then we see her smash his head in and then fall. So she's very active in it. But obviously it seems like from her reaction too that she feels terrible, and she's haunted by Zuri.
She's having the nightmare. Yeah. The
but
zombie Zuri.
Yeah, if at that point you didn't know it was a
Raimi film, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Hi, I'm Sam Raimi.
Hi, I'm Sam Raimi. This isn't zombie. That really made me laugh though, because that was like very much to me like on the internet, like when you would get those peaceful videos and then they have the zombie thing, like the jump scare. Yeah. Like it was so over the top. Or her, like vomiting up the berries while she's trying to give him CPR. For me, it went that
was hilarious. Yeah. That was too far for you.
It kept going and going. But like when the Zuri, like the zombie popped up too, like, and she's having the nightmare and she's like, Linda, and like calling out to her, like there is something funny about it too. So it's, it's like she feels bad about it. But then I feel like the way that we're given it as well, and then how she does move forward, and she does continue her behavior, that she kind of just folds it in, I think, as like, again, like a rational, like, well, I had to, like, I think she feels bad and she does know, like, oh, okay, like this is like a big thing that I've done. This is a big before and after for Linda of like what I'm capable of. But then she's like, I think she probably rationalized it as like, well, I had to do it. Like I had to help myself.
She doesn't want to go back to that life.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to go back to being the analyst who is underappreciated and her boss sucks. And she's lonely. I mean, I do think, I guess, to a certain degree, she does connect with Bradley. And, again, Raimi sets up in the beginning, and I should credit even the screenwriters of this because, they did the writing of the breadcrumbs. I'm just gonna mention them real quick. Damian Shannon and Mark Swift. The breadcrumbs for McAdams falling for him, for Linda actually being able to fall for this guy, is when she's talking about getting her promotion and she's excited that she's going to get the promotion and there's a new boss and he's cute and he's nice, or she thinks he's nice, like the first before, she has more interactions with him. And I think he might have been flirting with me, I think is what she says to Sweetie, her cockatoo, in the beginning in the apartment. So again, it's like not this unbelievable thing that, okay, maybe she does actually have some kind of weird idea that they could actually fall for each other legitimately, as long as they stay on this island, right? And I think Bradley convinces her that it's possible, even though I think he's toying with her the whole freaking time. I don't think he ever really had a moment of he was falling for her. I don't know. One could argue either way, maybe. I argue that he plays her the whole time, but again, I'm not very sympathetic to this character. I think he knows how to get what he needs out of people to get to where he needs to get. And so the gruesome battles that they have with each other in the woods, again, a lot of people could be like, this is wild. What is going on? What movie am I watching, right? But again, I think that Sam Raimi goes, no, this is the kind of movie we're in, because I saw towards the beginning, I put you with her killing this boar in a really like awful way, where she had to stab the boar through the head, the shoulder, the eye, all this crazy shit to kill this boar. And that was, I mean, I guess I do love animals, but like the CGI on that boar was so cartoonish for me.
Yeah.
That like it was funny. Like, we're not watching an actual boar get killed, like Raimi's not trying to make this like hyper realistic, and I think that benefits the times when he goes overboard or extreme in his visuals and in the violence. And it works for me because he's going, no, this is very comic-y, this is very cartoonish anyway, So like it's not as bad. So I think it allows you to laugh, So I do think that the decision to make the animals and some of the CGI and some of the visuals like cartoonish helps in that regard to help make you laugh, help you through the scene, and to signal to you like, it's okay. it's okay to laugh, right?
Yeah.
So even like when they're fighting in the woods and he's gouging her eye out and the eye does the like crazy kind of bulgy thing when he's got his thumb in her finger of eye, like it's funny and it's more like, oh God, gross, instead of like, I'm going to vomit right now. Let me close my eyes or turn away or whatever. Like in a straight horror movie, you would have to avert your eyes or like be cringing or nauseous. Where this one, it's funny. I think their whole fight is funny.
Yeah, I think the only time where I really truly felt like horror was the fake out castration scene because of the way that Dylan O'Brien and like the zoom in on his face and like his eyes. Where I think that was like the moment that I felt the most uncomfortable, actually, where I was like kind of like and then obviously it's just a rat. So I mean, like watching it, obviously I thought like, okay, she's probably not actually castrating him, but his reaction to it and like his fear, like that, made me very uncomfortable. But I agree with what you're saying though too, with the most of the fighting and the eye and them going back and forth at each other. I was laughing the whole time, and I think it does then set you up nicely for one of my favorite moments, where at the end of that, like where she swallows the ring, and she's like, "Fuck you, Bradley," and gives him the double fingers. And it also, I think, then gives the audience permission to be like, just like any level of violence then that they get to, that you're supposed to take it as like, these are two people that have now like hit their limit. But again, Linda does still, it seemed like, in her own twisted ways, willing to give him chances. One more chance, and he takes that chance. And again, is trying to bullshit her with like a whole love story. But even that was making me crack up. Just even the fact that, that for a second, it seems like she really believes like, oh, like what? Why did it take you so long? And he's like, I'm an idiot. I'm so stupid. Like even that kind of a thing where, again, like where story-wise maybe for me was like pushing me like a little bit too far, like in terms of like the constant like back and forth. I still was in it, and I still thought that it was really funny. And I didn't need by that point anybody, I guess, to like root for. I think I was kind of okay with whatever was going to happen.
I think I was still rooting for Linda to the very last moment. I love when there's no ammo in the shotgun. And she was like, strategy and analysis, Bradley, I think is what she said. And like, I do think there was a small part of her that was hoping to believe him, right? Like what you were saying, like giving him this last chance. But again, maybe it's she couldn't find any bullets. We don't really know why, like, she doesn't load the shotgun. Maybe she is hoping it's going to go her way. He does really love her. But something about her, saying strategy, I think it's analysis, that makes me think, oh, she kind of had this plan, the backup plan the whole time, knowing it could go wrong. And I think that from that moment in the house on, I really do think she is intent on killing him. Like, I think she's made her peace with it, that she may kill this man.
Yeah, if she doesn't feel like she can control him anymore, I think by that point too, and then he finds out the house, like the whole illusion is shattered. Like their little happy home that she's created for the two of them, they can't go back. So yeah, I definitely do get the feeling that once she realizes like, oh no, it's like still you and you're still bullshitting me, like now it's time to end this. Like now I can dispose of you.
Yeah. So, and this is just so perfectly done. This is just cherry on top of when she takes the golf club off the wall after he's gone after her with a bullhorn of a I mean, like, let's just go through because I find it actually pretty hilarious to get to the point of when she then gets the golf club and supposedly swings it at his head to kill him. The killing blow, the killing stroke. She's got the shotgun on him. He's trying to bullshit her. He's taken a horn from some statue in this rich person's house to then, I'm trying to remember how the shotgun gets knocked out of her hand. Does he just go after her?
I think so. I think she looks, she realizes that the horn is missing. She gets distracted, and I think then he charges her.
He charges her, right? Gets a blow in at her with the horn.
Yeah.
The shotgun, skitters across the floor, I guess. And he ends up with it. He goes to shoot her, actually pulls the trigger, right? Then we find out there's no ammo in it. And that's where she's it seems she's revealing she knows there's no ammo in it. She probably was intent on killing him this whole time. And there's another, I guess he must drop, I need to rewatch this because the course of events is like so quick. He must drop the shotgun after that, or maybe try to swing at her or something. She manages to get a golf club off the wall. And then where we get does she hit him once and then she goes to take the full swing that hits him in the head?
I think so. She might hit him somewhere on the body and then, yeah.
Yeah. And then we get that perfect swing cut into her swinging, playing golf. And she is then being interviewed by somebody, a news outlet or whatever, about her being the sole survivor. And now is she a president of a new company? Like, she's gotten majorly successuul.
Yeah, she's
her own, is like
a memoir,
her self-help book.
Yeah, she wrote that, and then they're turning it into a movie.
Yeah, right. And she is so put together, so charming, so eloquent, and she breaks the fourth wall. We get that look. She looks directly into the camera. We know what's going on, right? Like, I think that was a nice little like cheeky thing to do, to be like, you saw the whole thing, like, the real story. And then it cuts to her in her Corvette with her sweetie. And she's driving along this gorgeous mountainside drive. And she breaks the fourth wall again, and one way or another, her karaoke song is playing.
Yeah.
That she said at the beginning when she was having that awkward conversation with her coworkers about it being her karaoke song, her go-to, and one way or another is playing, and she breaks the fourth wall again, looking directly into the camera, and I think it's brilliant. I think it's just such a great cherry on top ending.
No, it's super fun, and also, like, I love the fact that song, one way or another, like, that plays in Mean Girls, like, during the montage where they're trying to, like, sabotage her continually, and, like, nothing is, like, working because she's just, like, so popular and so charming. But the fact that comes up at the beginning and that she does it, it's kind of awkward where she's gonna get you. And then by the end of it, the meaning of the lyrics, it's very fun. And I like that we see, like, with her with the golfing and how at ease she is, like, talking to that reporter, that she was able to change, and that, like, she learned from him how to, I guess, lie, how to bullshit, how to be good with people, because that's, like, what he says to her. Like, you can't be, I don't think that you could be VP. Like, you need to be good with people, and you need to be someone who, like, plays golf. And she becomes that person by the end, so that she took what she needed from him, actually, and she became better and more successful. And also, it just seems like better at probably hiding her darkness and the fact that she is sort of monstrous. But yeah, I really, really like that double direct eye contact with the camera. As you put it, like, that acknowledgement, like, you watched this whole thing. Like, you know what really happened, right? But we're going to keep quiet about it. Like, the second time she looks at the camera, it's, like, kind of a dead face that she has. So it seems sort of threatening. Like, I felt almost like she was like, you better shut your mouth. Like, you better not tell anybody about this. Like, it's just me and you and the bird that know. And that was another nice surprise. Like, I didn't expect there to be just, like, that complete time jump from the golf shot right into it. And it didn't really, like, bother me that much either, too, because I saw some people were like, oh, okay, like, but then how did she cover up the murder and all this stuff? And I'm like, she's, yeah.
This doesn't matter. That's not this kind of film. I hate, like,
here. All these questions.
Don't ruin it. Like, yeah, like, it doesn't. And you know what? I could see where people are going to say that, because actually that was going to be my my kind of follow-up on that is I could see how some people would be like, what? Like, how are we now on a golf course and we're breaking the fourth wall? And like, she didn't break the fourth wall the whole film. And, you know, I could see like that kind of complaining, right? And it's like, did you just watch this whole movie? Did you not? Like, did you not see the tone? Did you not see, you know, the exaggeratedness, the fun, the wildness, I think like Sam Raimi is telling you this whole movie that like you're gonna, like, I don't know, I guess those people weren't okay with the ending, but like I think that he tells it so that like when we get to this point, we're like, yeah, this is a great ending. At least for me, I was like, this is a cherry on top. Like I totally buy, I'm cool with this. I'm good with this, you know? Yeah. And I think that I don't think he changes his tone. Like the film doesn't, I think that's where like it would be a problem, right? If we get to the ending and it's been this serious nuance. I mean, there's obviously nuance in the film. That's not saying that there isn't. Raimi still does a very good job at it. But this hasn't been like this. It is intense. It's hard because it's like, it is all these things, but it is a dark comedy. It is cartoonish a lot of the time. So that when we get to the end and it has like a comic book type fourth wall break ending, I'm not like, yeah, this is a movie I've been watching the whole time. He's not like chucking a ball from left field that no one saw coming, you know? I think that he stays on, tonally, he stays in his lane.
Yeah. And it's his stamp all the way through. Like you pointed out at the beginning, that zoom in and his eye twitching because of the tuna fish, like, and then the zoom in too, where he like tells the other guy to like smell his hand, you know, like where it's like, what is going on? But that's very early on in the film. That's before they get to the island, you know. So it's teaching you how to view the movie. And if you don't like from the beginning, then that you would know. I think if you don't vibe with those early scenes and those kind of cuts, then the movie it's not for you. You know, like I also saw people being like, oh, and Linda's and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, no. But like also, I think that can be true. I don't think that the movie is trying to give you a straightforward narrative of like, you should be rooting for Linda and like the victim comes out on top. I think that is where some of the nuance does come in, where it's like they're both terrible in different ways. He's probably more unlikable, definitely, than her for most audiences. But that you need that too, because it does allow for that level of like where everything is kind of funny when they're just constantly going back and forth and lying to each other and bullshitting. And so that you can have that kind of ending where she just like clocks him in the head with a golf club and like it is funny. Where usually it's like if somebody's bashing someone's head in with a golf, like it's not funny. And then like obviously like then like benefiting off of it and having a really nice life. But it feels like the perfect ending for the movie because it does feel like it's really about Linda's character arc. And whether or not you like her, you think that her actions were justified, whatever. I really think that was so well done that you see like she really did take in something. And she is like, okay, like now I'm going to be like the best version of Linda. And I'm going to pretend to a certain level. And now I have that skill. I think that she was the entire movie too. They show that in those scenes where like you as the audience think like, oh, like maybe like I agree with you. I always thought that he was bullshitting her, but like that he is charming enough where it's like, oh, okay, like maybe he's kind of softening towards her. That she learned how to do that, I think, from watching him do it over and over and over again.
Isn't it funny that she reads all these survival guides and she's like kind of a survivalist, and like the real world survival that she needed to learn was from the asshole guy?
Yeah. The whole time.
The whole time. She didn't need a survivalist books. She didn't need those. She needed real world
She
skills.
needed a douchey frat guy. Yeah. To especially like just within the world that she was in the beginning of the movie, and maybe that corporate kind of world, that office place, that she didn't have that skill. And I feel like the beginning of the movie does show that it doesn't matter necessarily how smart she is and how long she's been there and if she deserves a promotion. that you have to have that level of being able to schmooze with people and that the coworkers like you and they invite you to karaoke night, like, you know, and she just like couldn't do that. And then at the end, she seems so at ease and so charming. She's got the ponytail flowing in the wind and like everybody loves her. And it's very satisfying just to see that she like has adapted in that way.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that Raimi is trying to say that anybody, though, who gets a taste of power turns into this?
Maybe. I did think
that's just like a more lofty thing that I'm like, I don't think that Raimi's actually trying to make a case for that, but it is like, I guess, a question you could pose.
Yeah, it definitely did occur to me where I think when you're watching it, like it does, then like I do have to think about like, oh, okay, if it was me in this situation. Not that I think that I would end up killing, you know, I'm not Linda, but like
I'd probably get off of that first boat. I would have swam to the boat, gotten the attention.
Which like, it's interesting too, like her reaction, because at first she is genuinely excited. She's like, oh my God, she runs. And then she has that moment of realization where I think that's the difference between her and maybe a lot of other people where they would just be like, yeah, like we need to get off this island. We have to go back to real life. And she is the kind of person that has a moment where she's like, well, wait a minute, you know, like strategy and planning. Like, well, why don't we see this out for a little bit? Like, and then we see too that in that same scene where she saw the boat, she saw the house. So then she's thinking about like, oh, okay, now I have this house. I really have the upper hand and he can be my subordinate. And I might never have that opportunity in my life. So like, I'm going to do it. And I do think that there are probably a lot of people think that they wouldn't, but maybe would seize that opportunity, especially with somebody that previously in real life was above them and also made them feel very, very small. Not just like you're my boss, like that he was, you know, terrible.
Yeah, actively terrible to her. Yeah. I mean, that's saying again, you know, going back to my life, I'm thinking about like, okay, my actual life, you know, with my husband and my dog and my cat and all that crap, you know. But yeah, I don't know, if you took those things away from me, maybe I would stay on the island, because sometimes I do think about being on a deserted island with no responsibilities and all you have to do is figure out how to survive. That sounds nice. I don't know what that says about me as a person or my life. But yeah, sometimes when I see these like survivalist type things where people end up on islands and all they gotta do is survive, I'm like, that doesn't sound that bad, you know? Cut off the internet, cut off everything. Like, no, I love film. I'm gonna miss movies. But I think that like when your day to day is literally like finding water and hunting or gathering and things like that, makes life a lot simpler. And you don't have to, like, again, even like, do you want to say like in a modern day way, like when you are constantly living paycheck to paycheck or starving or you're hungry or whatnot, your needs are trying to get met, it's a lot harder to worry about all the outside noise, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, okay, maybe a desert island where like you had to just, your one goal was to survive, was to live, might not be so bad.
Yeah. I think so. Especially anyway, like you're saying too, like she doesn't really have anything else, you know, and the one thing that she felt like she had was her job. And then now she knows she doesn't really have it, you know? So I think it is important to note that mindset where like, yeah, I think then too, it does seem a little bit more possible. I think it also though is probably hard for viewers to maybe try and separate themselves from like any life that they have, loved ones, friends, you know, family, sense of purpose, connection, you know.
I mean, even comfort. Even just like the modern day comforts.
Yeah, like she seems like she can do without it, but at the same time,
she found the house.
She has that house, so she's not really doing full survivor.
I guess the one question I would have, you know, like people had questions of like, the time has passed and how'd she get off the island and how'd she cover up the murders and blah, blah, and all those questions. I guess my one question would be like, what's this rich dude going to come back to his house? That notice.
Oh, yeah. I forgot.
That was my one thing. Yeah, it was my one thing. I was like, people are actively bringing supplies to this home. That means that somebody lives in this home or one would think resides in this home at some point.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, what have they been thinking? I guess they haven't been back yet. Or they are only back when, you know, Linda's just keeps an eye on them and goes back in after they leave or something. After the stuff gets destroyed and he's dead and all that, it's kind of like, what is this person coming back to when they come back to their house? That was my one big, like, wait, what? What's going to happen there? Not that I really cared.
Yeah, any questions that I had, I'm like, I don't, and even that too, I'm like, I guess like maybe she probably like moved his body and made it just look like he just fell off of something, died, like Zuri, you know,
Put him back in the water.
Maybe tried to clean stuff up and then made it seem like she finally found the house, and then that's how or maybe she waited in the house for people to come and, you know, do the supplies. But yeah, again, like I don't really, it's not like when I was
it's not the
walking in,
point.
No, I wasn't like really bothered. I was just kind of like, I guess she figured it out, you know. I guess she got away with it.
Right.
Like, that's it. Yeah.
But so to wrap up, I would say know going in what the kind of story you're in for. But I think if you know that, I don't know how you wouldn't enjoy this film. You know, I think it's a very solidly enjoyable film. I'll watch it again. It is incredibly campy, but like, I think it's gonna last well because of that. Actually, like they didn't seem over concerned with the visual effects. Like the CGI is like, yeah, no, the plane doesn't look like it's actually a plane crashing. The boar doesn't look like a boar. Like none of this is supposed to signal reality to you. So I think in a way that like this will age well. I think it will have a good camp following, cult following at some point. You know, if I had to make, I guess, predictions into the future of it. I think that like Rotten Tomatoes did have it at like 93%, or am I making that up?
No, I think that's what I thought too. It was a very high rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
I think it was over 90.
So like people did get on board with it. People were for it. You know, they didn't immediately go, this is unbelievable. This is ridiculous. This is outrageous. And I kind of do think that like, I like that audiences are kind of lightening up a little bit. You know, I feel like we've been so freaking serious with so many movies lately. And I kind of even want to mention that there's a lot of horror comedy out right now. Like I've noticed a lot of films have that dichotomy recently. We're not just getting, sure, there of course are always going to be horror movies, but I've realized that there are a lot of like horror comedy specifically by female filmmakers that have come out recently. So like just off the top of my head, there's Lisa Frankenstein. It was written by Diablo Cody and directed by Zelda Williams. And like, that was brilliant. Really wasn't a ton of horror in it, you know, like, but like just deeply funny and darkly funny at times, right? I recently I did manage to catch it in theaters. It was so elusive to see this movie in theaters. I found with a lot of people, Forbidden Fruits. I kind of do. I know I mentioned to Nicole that eventually I want to talk about this grouping of films that are horror comedy by female filmmakers. And that's just to touch on those. But like, I think, what was it? Companion was the one with girl from Yellow Jackets and the guy who's his dad. He looks like his dad.
Quaid.
Who is on The Boys.
The Quaid guy, yeah.
Yeah. Not Dennis Quaid. Jack
Quaid, yeah.
Right, and that kind of was darkly funny too. I wouldn't say that was a straight horror movie. It should be actually interesting to like look up the number of horror comedies that have come out. It's not a new phenomenon. There's always been like funny horror movies, right? I mean, Scream is kind of like a quintessential, like almost a parody of a horror movie. But I just feel like lately people are really embracing that maybe we're in a dark timeline and like our horror movies can be funny at the same time of trying to make some kind of statement, you know?
Yeah, I think that for the time, it makes sense that those kinds of movies are getting made and popular, where it's kind of like a wink of like, this is so dark, this is so messed up. Like, I guess we'll laugh at it. You know, like it's so terrible and so dystopian that it almost seems unreal. So I feel like people are kind of primed for that kind of a movie, and they probably enjoy that. And that all of those movies do have to, like, even if it's not like classic like tropes of horror, they have like a certain level of violence to them at the very least that makes you kind of uncomfortable. But you do also kind of have to laugh at it because of the character interactions and a lot of messing around with power dynamics.
Mm-hmm. And I'm good with it. I guess all this to say, I'm enjoying it. And I could see another point in time, like, where we'd be like, what is this nonsense? You know?
Yeah.
But I feel like it's good that like audiences they just want original stories. That too. Like I think a lot of these little smaller, I mean, I don't know if you can call a movie done by Sam Raimi and starring Rachel McAdams is a smaller film, but probably has a smaller budget than a lot. But like, yeah, there's these smaller horror films that are original. Maybe I'm just like, hey, if this is the way I have to get my original stories, I'm for it.
Yeah, just something different, something that's not part of an established universe, something that's not a remake, something that's not the
sequel.
Same thing. Yeah, over and over and over again. You're right. I don't think that even occurred to me, but that also probably was just a refreshing part of it, that it did feel different. It felt like an original story.
For sure. So encourage everybody to let us know their thoughts on it. Did you guys feel the same way? Was it working for you? Was it too outlandish? If you listened all the way through and you heard all the spoilers, I would still argue, like, go watch it yourself. There's no way that us describing it depicts the funniness of it, the outrageousness of the visuals. So I would still go see it, and we'll see what we end up doing. Funny thing is, I feel like I've done a lot of horror movies in the last few weeks. Pete gave us a little like overview of Hokum, which I do need to see with Adam Scott. But apparently I need to watch Oddity too, which you don't have to watch Oddity, but I do want to actually see it and see how this filmmaker, it's worth it. You've seen it?
It's really good, yeah.
It's so funny because I have you and Pete, and I think you guys just watch a lot more horror movies than I do. When I get the okay to go watch it, it's good, then I will do it. But again, I'm always really hesitant with like diving into if it is like a straight horror movie. But we've done, so I don't know, Nicole, if you've noticed what Pete and I have done. The Mummy, the Lee Cronin's The Mummy. Yeah. and then he talked about Hokum. Now we're doing Send Help, which I would argue not too much horror, but like still in that genre. You can put it under the umbrella. And I do want to talk about Mother Mary soon. And that's kind of a psychological thriller. I wouldn't consider it a horror movie. But yeah, next thing I know, this podcast is just going to be a horror movie podcast. if I continue at this rate.
Yeah, I mean, the next thing that I'm really excited to see is Obsession, which is coming out.
Oh, I've seen the trailer for that.
Yeah, that's also a horror movie. So, I mean, I don't know. Horror's just been really, really good the past
I think
few
it's
years.
also, yeah, and I think that studios are willing to make them because most of them you can produce fairly cheaply in comparison to other films.
That's true.
So I think that's a reason why. And they make a lot of money. Like, even like the shitty ones make a decent amount of money. And then I think, like, even if they don't, it's like, well, we made this so cheaply, so, you know,
not a big deal.
As long as we make back the budget, like, yeah. But no, I do want a change of pace. But honestly, just fair warning for people going forward with this podcast. I don't know. The next few might be horror movies. And this is another thing where I guess, like, this is film curious. Like, if the story intrigues you, just watch it. Why not? You know, like, I used to be such a baby about it being a horror movie. And like, my favorite horror movie was Scream because I liked the funniness of it. Like, it made it more easy for me to consume and to enjoy. But the funny part is, like, I love the horror genre. I even do a lot of writing in that one. Like, I do when I write, a lot of like horror elements just like come out. So I'm just trying to be a little better about who cares about if I'm anticipating it to be scary, it's gonna be worse, you know? But it's like that just go watch it. Go watch it, see for yourself. If it's really freaking scary, close your eyes, put your hands over your ears. So I think it's good if you're not a big horror movie person. There's been a lot of good ones coming out, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And don't knock it till you try it. And I say that on like an individual basis, like an individual movie. Not every horror movie is the same. And yeah, some of them have a lot of the same tropes. And those ones aren't good. But, or they don't use the tropes right or well. But I say give them a shot, and I don't think we're going to become a horror movie podcast. I like watching too many different kinds of movies too many times, but I guess I don't want you to, if you've even stuck around this long while I'm going on this rant about horror movies and you haven't turned it off already because we already stopped talking about Send Help a while ago. Yeah, give it a chance. But anyway, thank you for listening. Really appreciate it. If you're enjoying any of these episodes, please subscribe. It would be great, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. So, of course, put some thoughts in the comments. I will always try to respond if I can. And Nicole, you have anything you want to say before we sign off on this episode?
No, appreciate anybody who popped in. Hope you enjoyed the discussion, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Awesome. All right, this is Film Curious. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you real soon. Bye.
Bye.